Simple and plain. To be the best, you have to win. That's why I play the game.
So, as we all know, the Los Angeles Lakers now have 3 superstars on their current roster after going out and trading for Russell Westbrook on draft night. And then since then, during free agency, I think we've done a really good job bringing in some guys to really help go on a championship run this season. We've brought in 3-and-D players like Malik Monk, Kent Bazemore, Trevor Ariza. We've brought back some Hall of Famers, some experience in Dwight Howard and Carmelo Anthony, and we brought back some shooting as well in a guy like Wayne Ellington, and we were able to retain Talen Horton-Tucker, who's one of our bright prospects for the future. And then to top it all off, we bring in a guy like Kendrick Nunn, who I think's my favorite pick up this offseason, and I did a video about how I think Kendrick Nunn is ultimately going to be the Lakers' secret weapon this season, so check that video out after this one. But when you have these 3 superstars, the quality of LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, that means that they're going to take up most of your salary cap as well. We've seen Russell Westbrook's on about $45 million, LeBron's on about $40 million, Anthony Davis would be on about $37 million. So that means that the rest of your team that you're bringing in, if you don't have their bird rights, pretty much has to come in on veteran minimum contracts, and that's exactly what we've done. And looking at the value that we've got from those contracts, I'm very happy with what the front office has done, bringing in the guys that we have. But in saying that, because we've invested so much money into our 3 superstars, it's really important that we have depth at those 3 positions, meaning the point guard position, the small forward position, and the center position, where Anthony Davis is probably going to play most of his basketball this season. And when you look at our roster at the moment, we do have depth at all those positions, but then we have to consider that these 3 superstars are probably not going to be available every single night, and let's pray that none of these guys get injuries. But because we have so much talent, we do have the luxury of, we can load manage a little bit throughout the season. So Russell Westbrook can take a night off, Anthony Davis can take a night off, LeBron can take a night off, and LeBron and Russell Westbrook are getting older, so they probably need more time to recover, so we do need more depth in those positions. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Who else can we bring in to fill out our final roster spots? But before we get started, let me know in the comments who is your favorite player that the Lakers brought in free agency. Let me know in the comments right now. And let's start talking about the point guard position firstly. Who else can we bring in to help back up Russell Westbrook and Kendrick Nunn? Well, the Lakers have sort of already answered that in a sense. They've worked out Isaiah Thomas, and we've seen that he can still put the ball in the basket after scoring 81 points in a Pro-AM game, and that's what he does. He's just a scorer, and he's a player that can really go out there and shoot the ball effectively. And as a 3rd string point guard in this league, you can't go wrong with Isaiah Thomas. We've also worked out a guy in Darren Collison, who we haven't seen play in the NBA for multiple seasons now, but when he was in the league, he also was an effective scorer and a decent defender for his size as well. We've also worked out a dude called Mike James, who was on the Nets last season, I believe. I haven't really seen any of his games, so I can't comment on him, but it's clear that the Lakers are already looking at a 3rd string point guard, and a point guard that can really score. So when Russell Westbrook doesn't play for one night or is injured or something, we can bring in a guy like these guys that can really come in and help with the scoring. A player like Quinn Cook comes to mind, who was on the Lakers a couple of years ago. I think someone like him coming in could really help out. A guy like Dante Exum, who has been on the Cavaliers and played well in the Olympics with the Australian team. I was really impressed by what he did on that team as well. So we do have some options at the point guard position, and it's going to be interesting to see what the front office really go for here. But we also do need, another backup wing defender, in my opinion. Someone who can shoot the 3-ball and defend at a high level. So when LeBron James wants to take a night off or load manage, we can bring in a guy at the small forward or the power forward position to add some depth to this squad. And a player that comes to mind straight away, and who's at the top of my list of guys that I would want the Lakers to bring in, is Paul Millsap. A veteran in this league, and we know what he brings. He's a solid defender, and he can really knock down that 3-ball as well. And he's a versatile guy that can play, the 3, the 4, or the 5 in that small ball lineup. And I think if we can bring in a guy like him, he's going to add so much more versatility to this squad, and we can possibly even start him at the 4 and play Anthony Davis at the 5. And I just think if we can bring in a guy like Paul Millsap on the veteran minimum, it's going to be perfect for the Lakers. It's just a matter of, is he willing to take that amount of money when he can probably get something, you know, of a higher salary in this league, although those options are drying up very quick, but it's definitely one to keep an eye on. The next player that comes to mind is a guy in James Ennis, who's also a good 3-and-D player, you know, shoots the 3 well and can defend the other team's best player, and also has an underrated slashing game as well. So I think if we can bring in him, he can, you know, fix some problems in a backup position for the Lakers. Another player who's a former Laker as well, who was on the team last year, is Wesley Matthews, who didn't have his best season with the Lakers last year, but, you know, he's proven throughout his career that he can be a solid, you know, bench player and even start if the Lakers need to. He's a great 3-point shooter and also a solid wing defender. So out of the wing players that are still out there on free agency, they'd probably be my top 3. I'm sure there's some other solid options out there, and the Lakers are rumored to be one of the teams in the mix for trading for Jeremy Lamb, but I did a whole video about my thoughts on that situation, so be sure to check that video out after this one. But as you can see, there's still some quality options out there on the board that the Lakers can bring in to play that wing position, which is so crucial in today's NBA. And then last but not least, we have the center position. So who can we bring in to help back up Dwight Howard and Anthony Davis, especially with the uncertainty around Marc Gasol's future with the Lakers? Well, how about a guy like DeMarcus Cousins, who I thought played particularly well for the Clippers in the playoffs last season? You know, he has the ability to still stretch the floor and showed that he still has some muscle down there in the interior. You know, he's pushing some guys around and scoring some baskets down there. So I think if we can bring in a guy like him, he's definitely a solid backup. And then if we did want to change up our offense, we can bring in DeMarcus Cousins to help stretch the floor as well. And the same goes for a player like Marquise Chris. And I hope I said that right. Another player that can come in and fill the big man position and who's quite good at slashing to the basket for a big man and can also step out and knock down that 3-point shot. And he's a younger player as well, only 24 years old, so the Lakers can bring him in and keep him for the future and develop his game moving forward as well. Oh, and another player I forgot to talk about who I'd love to see back on the Lakers is Avery Bradley, who's an absolute elite defender and can really go out there and do some things on the defensive end and can also knock down the 3-point shot as well, and he'd be right up there at the top of the list. So as you can see, there's some quality options out there, and I'm sure any of these guys that I've talked about can come in and do the job for the Lakers as a backup, or, you know, a third backup at that. But, you know, there is also the option that the Lakers leave 1 or 2 roster spots available and go after guys on the buyout market or guys that get waived from their team. So I think that's definitely an option. I think the Lakers will, you know, at least keep 1 spot available moving forward, because there is guys out there that may get bought out. Kevin Love, for example, who can come in and do a job. Rajon Rondo, who could come in and really help us out at the point guard position. So there's definitely a lot of options still available in terms of free agency for the Lakers. I guess it just ultimately comes down to what we need at the time and what the front office feel comfortable with bringing into this team. But let me know your thoughts. Who do you want to see the Lakers pick up in free agency or the buyout market for that matter? Let me know in the comments. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. I appreciate everyone who's been rocking with the channel. We just hit 100 subs as well, so shout out to you guys for supporting the content. And if you haven't subscribed already, be sure to do that now so you don't miss out on future Laker videos just like this one. But for now, it's been your boy Jay from Lakers Exclusive. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.